Greetings. This is Rich and Maikel with Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. That's Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. Act. As a leader, you got to act. You got to take action, right? We all know that. We
Oh,
all
yes.
understand that, right? Okay. And then there's also ACT, which stands for and culture transformation. So that's what we discuss. It's executive coaching and culture transformation. Isn't that right, Rich?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the culture is an absolutely imperative part of the success of a company. So, big part of coaching.
So we know there's a lot about business out there, good businesses, bad businesses. So talk to us a little bit about, okay, good business, bad business, or great business, and what do they want to do? Where do they want to go with this?
Well, our goal is to partner with those organizations, regardless of where they're at in their success or what they're doing, and help them get to that next level, help them get even better.
That's right. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we're reaching out, getting the word out. We want to reach those leaders. We want to reach those people that are influential in any business that are already doing great work, but want to do even more great work, incredible work as leaders, also in their culture. To quote Richard Branson, we all know Richard Branson. He says here, train people well enough so that they can leave. So you give them the information, the training, the skills they need, but treat them so they don't ever want to leave. They just want to stay there. They just love it so much.
It's interesting you say that because in my previous career, if I had a manager that I had trained, I had worked with, and they came to me and they said, "Look, I got this great opportunity. I'm going to be the first guy to shake their hand, pat them on the back, and tell them, go get it." But in the long term, I want to keep them around. But if I've trained them well enough that they feel they can go to that next level, I'm going to be the first guy to congratulate them.
Yeah. And that's what great bosses do, actually. And sometimes great bosses, great leaders, don't always know exactly how to do that. There's this kind of this belief that because you're in the position, you should know how to do it. You should just naturally, or I don't know what it is, know what to do. But that's not true. The whole thing of this executive coaching, it's been around since the 1970s. It's been around for a while. It kind of hit stride back in as we hit the 21st century. So it's this idea of, some leaders get it, some people don't. And if you don't get it, that's no big deal, but we can get you some help. We can get you the help with coaching and how to take it and build on who you are already. That's what we want. We're not going to change you. That's a key thing to understand. What we're actually going to do, we're going to get you back to who you are and how you actually work. Build on those strengths that you have as a leader so that you feel really confident about those things. Then we start taking a look at other areas that you can now branch out, expand in your leadership skills and abilities, and then really build something that's great for them. Because, like it or not, you as the leader, you set the tone. You set the tone for your culture. If your culture is not so great, the buck stops here. I mean,
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
right.
You know, leader culture is a leadership activity, if you will. It is a top-down exercise. But I'm going to go even further and say that it's not the company who builds a culture. It lands squarely on the leader, on the C-suite. They're the ones that are the culture of that company. From them, it has to disseminate down.
It does, because if you are not in sync with the C-suite's going to go, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And all this kind of stuff goes on. It's just a bunch of, it gets into drama, power plays, and all sorts of nonsense that are very counterproductive to not only the culture, but it's also very counterproductive to the activities of the organization and what it is they produce, the products or the services that they actually do. So we know that there are some great sources about that says executive coaching is good. It's a great thing, in fact. But here, let's take a look at, let's start looking at it from the point of view of that CEO who sits there in that seat. And what is it? Would you say, what is on the CEO's mind? What's going through his or her mind? What are these? We've got some points there. What are these points that are always like that's driving them?
I think revenue has got to be number one.
Yeah.
Revenue. After all, cash is king for any company. That's why we're in business. We got to make money to stay in business. So revenue is I think, a big point that they're going to be looking at that C-suite.
Okay.
I think the next one would be improving the efficiencies and the effectiveness of their company.
So, because those things cut into the revenue.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, got to
Absolutely.
get those things taken care of, get them sharper, more on point. Okay, good.
Yeah.
What else?
What about existing customer retention? Customer retention is a huge factor in remaining successful or continuing to be successful. But here's the kicker is, and this comes from personal experience, that employee retention equals customer retention. Customers become uh, very stuck on working with a few different individuals, if you will. Maybe stuck isn't the right word, but they build that trust, they build that rapport. And if there is a constant new face that they're talking to or working with, then that trust goes away, and that new person has to learn that whole thing all over again that the last guy knew, and they're probably not going to pass on any training to him.
Right.
So
That's one of those funny things. Change is one of those things in our society that's constant, right? And yet the other side of that coin is we don't like change. So so here we are, person is running a business, and then their retention for their people is not very good. So they, well, it's just got to change it, just got to change it, got to change it. That's just the way it is. The customer sees a different point of view. They don't like change.
no, they don't. I've been told the difference not bad, it's just different. And that might be good for something else, but it's not good for business, especially from a customer's point of view. Change is inevitable, but constantly being different, a different person, different mindset, different conversation, that's not always good.
How can I trust you? I'm a client. How can I trust you, the business owner, if I constantly see a new face? The new face is showing up. I'm thinking, why can't you run your business in such a way that you have that sense of constancy and consistency? Because when you keep changing it up, it makes me a little suspicious about what's going on here. When I go to the store and I don't see the same people at the check stands, I start going, what's wrong with, why do they keep running through people? I want to be here. I want to have a comfortable experience, but I keep seeing new people. Not that new people aren't a good thing, but the idea is, where are the old people, the other people there? Makes me wonder.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna take that an additional step, and that would be getting additional add-on business from your existing customers.
Yeah.
You have to have a person in place, account manager, whoever, that knows that business and knows what's going to make the customer become more successful with the products you're giving them. And so if you don't understand that, you cannot recommend additional add-on business to that customer. That add-on business in turn can improve your GP on your products. And so if you don't have a trained employee in place, that is going to be a struggle. It's like I said, they've got to relearn their customer. They have to learn them. They have to get to know them versus somebody who already knows them and can just continue on.
How about getting new clients, new customers? What about that?
Well, bad news travels quicker than good news. So, I mean, if customers are talking or the word on the street is that they have a big turnover, you don't know who's going to be in that position the next day or even the next month. There's trust issues. This person used to, take care of things great for me, while this guy really doesn't know what he's doing. Absolutely, that's going to get out there. So that will impact not only retention but future business as well, and it does.
It does. It absolutely does. Reputation is a big thing. Legacy in the long picture, that's a big thing as well. How about this? The idea of cutting non-value expenses.
Yeah, waste has been a big thing for companies for a long time. Lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, name it. It's all about eliminating waste and building quality into your product. But the biggest waste in any organization is people's time, energy, and talents. And how often is that being taken into account? Um, I would say not nearly as much as they're wanting to do, a Kaizen or something like that to get rid of waste, but they're forgetting about, the biggest waste in their organization and not taking into account how to fix that. So how do you fix that? It's a good question. How do you fix that problem of the waste in your organization when it
That's
comes
an
to people?
interesting problem, isn't it? Yeah, it's an interesting, and part of that whole thing is your willingness as a business leader, somebody in a leadership position, to listen to the people there in the front lines there that can help you see what's going on, give you the ideas, and that's one of the tensions that exists between leadership and employees. This lack of good communication. There's also kind of distrust that can also be there, so that it makes the job harder for the CEO and people at the C level. And they don't always recognize that's part of the culture. They may not recognize, they may not even want to see that there's a lack of good communication. There's that suspicion. So that's going to be just another anchor around their feet while they're running the race.
Yep.
That's what goes on. So that's what's on the mind of the CEO. That's what's on his mind or her mind. So what is it then that we've got the CEO, he's got these things, she's got these things on their minds, and then there's this idea of what else is on their mind. It's the thing of what's the one call the CEO is always going to take, no matter what.
Well, let me answer that with a question. Have you ever tried to call someone in the C-suite or call a CEO? How many times networking have you been asked, well, do you know anybody in the C-suite of that company? Have you been able just to pick up the phone and call them or send them a text message? Not likely.
Yeah,
Not likely, but I guarantee someone from that board of directors calls, he or she's going to pick up that phone call right now.
yeah. There's that immediate accountability
Yep.
that's going on, and what they're looking for is this something very simple. They're looking for the accountability of how are you in implementing the strategic plan and adjusting it if necessary. Because tell us a little bit about strategic plans, how they come together.
Strategic planning,
Yeah.
that's part of the vision, mission, and purpose of an organization. What's your vision? What's your mission? How are we gonna get to that next point? Well, it starts with the CEO, starts with probably even the board of directors having that vision of where we need to go. They're up above the trenches. They're up, and with everybody down below getting the work done. They're up there looking across the horizon. That's if you look at it that way, and they have to have that vision, and then they surround themselves with the people who can implement that. The mission. How do we get it done? How do we get this done? And part of the problem with a lot of people in leadership is entitlement and being afraid to allow others to step in and help. A true leader is only as good as the people who surround him. That's it. It's the people who surround him. And a good leader is going to always find someone better than him around him. That's a smart leader. That's a smart manager. That's a smart, executive. Find a team of people around you that are better than you are, that can figure out that problem.
That's right, because you're looking for help. The CEO is looking for help about how do I get this done, the strategic plan, and adjust as necessary as conditions change. So they are looking for smart people. They're looking for people that can really help them get that done. So when it comes to this idea of executive coaching, one of the things that executives look at, CEOs look at, is something very simple, very common sense, and it's the return on value, ROI.
Yes.
That's what they're looking at. If I spend this money, if I invest this money into myself or people in my organization, what's the ROI? May seem like I'm not going to get much out of it. May seem like not as much going to happen, but is that true? What do the studies start to tell us about this whole idea about ROI when it comes to executive coaching?
Well, that's interesting. There are a lot of studies out there right now who talk about return on investment. One from International Coaching Federation. Okay.
Okay.
And they talk about, let me read this here. In a survey of organizations, according to the International Coaching Federation, Uh, Organizations that had executive coaching saw an 86% return on investment. And of those surveyed, 96% of them saw enough value that they would do it again. They would repeat that process and keep going. And that's a very high level. But I'm going to tell you, that seems a little biased to me.
Because it's coming from the ICF.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, they do have an interest in having good statistics, don't they?
But I'm going to tell you, it's not. It's not a biased. It's not a biased report. There are several other organizations out there who, here's one, Metrics Global, and they said one Fortune 500 company wanted to know the ROI on executive coaching. So what did they find out? Those responded, 77% reported there had been an improvement in one or more of 9 business measurements. Another one, a return on investment of 788%.
Yeah.
That's 7 times. That's a 7x.
Almost 8 times. Yeah.
Yeah, almost 8 times. Now here's the kicker. I don't know if you know about this, but if you take out the employee retention piece of the return on investment, which is huge, it's still a 529% return on investment. Still.
And if you actually do retain more of your good talent, more of your good people, because interestingly enough, who are the people generally going to leave? There can be some people that just aren't that into the company itself, but oftentimes what you're losing is the best talent because they're just unhappy, they're dissatisfied, they feel frustrated, they're not really doing what it is that they do best, or they're not being managed in a way or allowed to do their work in a really good way. We can talk about that in just a moment here, but even just that point of it, there was a return of over 2.5 or 259% just in that alone. So that's the large itself. It can cost some people. I mean, some turnover for some companies is huge and costly.
Absolutely. One organization that worked with recently, they were spending $4.5 million a year on employee turnover alone. And get this, a CEO or someone in the C-level to replace that employee, average cost now is $500,000 just to replace that person. And not only that, everything changes when you replace someone at that level. The vision changes, the culture changes, everything. It's a huge investment. So that $500,000.
Like going to the store and seeing the different checkers. What's going on here now? But this is more significant. It's a leader that's coming and changing it.
Yes, absolutely. The leader. That's why we like to do leadership development. That's why it's absolutely imperative. I shouldn't say we like to. It's absolutely imperative that you do leadership development. Here's another study on that. Harvard Business Review. Companies that spend aggressively on employee development on the S&P 500 outperformed by 17 to 35%.
That's big.
That's big.
That's really big. That can be one of those places where a company can make or break that difference, a company, or it can move them into a higher level of competition, or can actually put them in a top level position. 17 to 35%. That's significant. That's a powerful change.
Right. Harvard Business Review.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the returns so it's not so nebulous. Let's take a look at what are the ROIs on this.
Okay.
So here's what we know about this. Improved in executive productivity reported. So improved executive productivity reported 53% improvement. Improvements in organizational strength, 48%. 48%. Gains in customer service, 39%. Increased retention of executives, 32%. You were just talking about the cost.
Oh, absolutely.
Losing, retraining, bringing them in. Enhanced direct reports, supervision relationship, over 70%. There's that communication gap starting to be taken care of. Good, effective communication that engenders trust, engenders that sense of connection and teamwork. Improved teamwork, 67%. There you go. Improved peer-to-peer working relationships. getting the drama out of it, getting the power play nonsense out of it. Improved 63%. Job satisfaction over all 52%. All that coming from executive coach training. The difference that takes place when you've got the right training for your people in those leadership positions. That's what you can get out of this.
Absolutely. When companies invest capital in their leadership development, employee development, it's a win-win. It really is, because you're going to get that return on investment. You're going to get leaders in the pipeline, which is another study right now. 38% of all executives out there cite having a very poor leadership pipeline for the future. That problem can go away in and of itself. But, it's just like we said, when a good leader leaves, some of that motivation leaves with them. So what are you going to do to keep them?
It's very true. That's very, very true. And it gets us into another thing. We talked about it before. This idea of what's it called when you are promoted to a level of your incompetency. You're really good at this level, and you really, really do well here, or whatever it may be. And now you're moved into a position of management or leadership, and you don't have those skills. You're actually promoted to a level of your incompetency, even though over here you're really competent. It's called the Peter Principle. And so we got a lot of people that moved into these higher positions of leadership management. They're good at what they do here, but it's a whole other deal when you're now having to deal with people, organizing people, motivating people, communicating people, getting them to work together. It's an entirely different set of skills.
Yep. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. You just might get that name on the door out there. And of course, once you have the name on your door, you know everything.
Oh, yeah, sure. I wish.
So I think there's a lot of entitlement around that, and a lot of true misunderstanding of what it takes to be a good leader. Being a leader is a privilege. It's a privilege. And you have a duty to do good by those people that surround you. Your decisions as a leader could either positively or negatively impact the career path of those around you. When that happens, it impacts everything in their life, could impact their family. You have an absolute responsibility as a leader to develop yourself, to get a coach and keep pushing forward. It's a never ending struggle. It really is.
Yeah, there is. So we've talked about there's the responsibilities of the CEO. They can be challenging, they can be difficult, they can be hard, but they're real. Those are real things. And we talked a little bit about the problems that can come as you are, and you're working a little bit with your team and all that kind of stuff. We also talked about a solution and the real proven statistics that executive coaching does work. We've also talked about here are the returns, and here's what comes out of that investment. So what we're talking about here is this. We're looking for companies, we're looking for people, we're looking for leaders that want to partner with us to help improve their leadership skills, their leadership abilities. And it's not just skills, we should say, it's the leader inside. It's the development of the leaders in your business from the inside out. That's what it really works, because you can do the flavor of the month kind of stuff, but that really doesn't stick. It's that internal development of these people, their character development, all those kinds of things that go on. So how do we do it? How do we do that? Because the idea is we want to partner with you. What's our invitation? What are we extending to them to begin this conversation?
I would start with our assessment, our initial leadership assessment that we can give for free. If you're very interested on where you currently stand in your leadership capabilities, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you.
Absolutely. We've got this leadership survey that we will give or extend to you as part of our reaching out to you. It's an incredible report. It's about 11 pages long, and it will go into some real detail about your strengths and about the gaps. What is that you can do well, and what we can do to help you to make it even better, and what are those areas that are holding you up, that are just gaps, that are just keeping you from being all that you can be, kind of a thing. We'll also, along with that, we'll give you a free coaching session. We'll go over that report with you. Let's take a look at it. What does it really mean? What can you start doing to emphasizing and sharpening those things that are great about you? And then what can you start doing to take care of those things that are holding you back? And as well, if you want, we have the conversation, we do the coaching session, we can give you a book. We'd also send to you John Matone's latest book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. John Matone again, this year has been recognized as the world's #1 executive coach and also the globe's #1 motivational speaker. And he's got a book that really dives into how to ignite your leadership. Just one of his books. So we'd be happy to send you that.
Yeah. Connect up with us. If you're looking for somebody to help you, if you're looking for somebody to partner with you, let's have the conversation. Let's get it going. Let's give you something. Let's start priming the pump so that you feel that sense of I'm going somewhere. I've got a direction. I know how to dig in. I know what to do with it. And from that, we can see whether or not this is a relationship that fits, whether or not it's going to fit and work for you and for us. Right. If it doesn't work for you, we'll tell you. However, if it does, and we think it probably will, we can move on to help you do great things at that C level and every other level of your organization.
Right.
Anything else you want to sign off with?
Well, just if you have any questions or you want to reach out to us, mainlineleadersact@gmail.com. That's mainlineleadersact@gmail.com or richbarron.intelligentleadershipec.com. And we hope to hear from you soon. So one other thing, our next podcast, just to kind of invite you to that one, we're going to actually really do a deep dive into the current state of leadership and culture, based on studies from several different organizations around the world.
Very good. That's it. All right, folks, we will be seeing you again. We hope you come back. We hope we can get a conversation going with you, starting with this podcast and then developing it from there. So, Rich, Maikel, we wish you folks all the best. Bye for now.
Take care. Well,
so once again, thank you for joining us today. If you have a topic you'd like to hear about on a future podcast, or have suggestions or comments or a question, send us an email at mainlineleadersact@gmail.com. That's mainlineleadersact@gmail.com, or go to richbarron.intelligentleadershipec.com. Once again, we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you and take care.